because my biggest mistake was when I was in charge of Wellington Management Company just came in charge in 1965, and stock owner, I was going to be the heir to his stock, control the company. He said, this company's in real trouble. I could see that. I talked to him about it a lot. And we're too conservative for those days, the go-go days. And he said, do whatever it takes to fix it. And so I did a merger. I bet everything on a group of young, aggressive money managers with a pension business, with a hot mutual fund, and with the presumptive talents to improve Wellington funds. It was slipping a lot in those days, the conservative Wellington, to improve the fund's returns. And that fell totally apart. Their pension business pretty much went away. The Wellington fund was virtually ruined. Its assets dropped from its performance, was the poorest among all balanced funds, which should never happen because we have such low cost. We should win on cost alone. And it was made much too aggressive, and the assets went from $2 billion to $400 million, 80% loss. And so it was a disaster.
What was the lesson you learned?
Well, the lesson I learned is there's no such thing as a permanently good investment manager. And when somebody has done in the past, the better they've done in the past, in other words, the more out of the ordinary it has been, the higher the likelihood they will do badly in the future. Reversion to the mean all over again. So if you're way above it, you got to go way below. And if you're a little above, you got to go some below. So and doing things for marketing reasons, first, terrible idea. Betting on pretty unproven managers and thinking that the past would be prologue was stupid. And I made a stupid mistake, and I paid a terrible price for it. I'd given them enough votes in the merger so they had the power to fire me, and they did. So, could anything be worse than that? And the answer is, it actually was good, because if all that hadn't happened, there would be no Vanguard.
The biggest mistake in general that I've made, and I'm trying to correct for that, is to put too much of a weighting on somebody's talent and not enough on their personality. And I've made that mistake several times. In fact, then I'd say, oh, gee, I'm not going to make that mistake again, and then I would make it again. And I think it actually matters whether somebody has a good heart. It really does. And I've made the mistake of thinking that sometimes it's just about the brain.
What are some of the big mistakes that we've made? And when I'm introspective about the last few years, I think that the biggest mistake that we made as a company is betting too much on HTML5 as opposed to native, because it just wasn't there, right? And it's not that HTML5 is bad. I'm long-term really excited about it. And and one of the things that's interesting is we actually have more people on a daily basis using mobile web Facebook than we have using our iOS or Android apps combined, right? So mobile web is a big thing for us. But there's no doubt that we went for this approach. We built this internal framework that we called FaceWeb, which was basically this idea that we can take the infrastructure that we built out for pushing code every day, not having to submit to an app store, building web code on the web stack that we have, and then we can translate that into mobile development. We just were never able to get the quality that we wanted. And so we made this decision 2 years ago to go in that direction. So it took us 6 to 8 months to build FaceWeb and get that approach going. Another 4 months or so to decide that it wasn't going to do it. After we'd kind of committed to doing that, and then we had to start over and start rewriting everything to be native. So that's it brings us to where we are now. We burnt 2 years. It's really painful. I think probably we will look back on saying that is one of the biggest mistakes, if not the biggest strategic mistake that we've made. But we're coming out of that now, right? And the iOS app, I think, is in good shape, and the Android one will hopefully be soon.
What would you consider to be the worst investment you've ever made?
The worst investment I ever made? How long do you have? Well, I've made some very bad ones, but that doesn't really bother me. It may bother the shareholders, but that's another question. You're going to make mistakes in life. I mean, there's no question about it. You don't want to make them on the big decisions, who you marry and some things like that. So there's no way I'm going to make a lot of business and investment decisions without making some mistakes. I may try to minimize them. I don't dwell on them at all. I don't look back. The biggest mistakes are the ones that actually don't show up. They're the mistakes of omission rather than commission. We've never lost that much money on any one investment, but it's the things that I knew enough to do that I didn't do. We have missed profits of as much as, maybe $10 billion in things that I knew enough to do and I didn't do. Now, the fact I didn't buy Microsoft way back is not a foregone opportunity because I didn't know enough to make that decision. But there have been other investments where I did know enough to make the decision, and for one reason or another, I either didn't do it at all or I did it on a small scale. I was sucking my thumb when I should have been writing checks, basically. And those don't show up. There's no place where it shows missed opportunities, but I've missed some big ones. The triumphs in life are partly triumphs because you know that everything isn't going to be a triumph. I would never get too hung up on mistakes. I know a lot of people that really agonize over them, and it just isn't worth it. I mean, tomorrow's another day, and you live it forward and just go on to the next thing.
I think in Microsoft's case, the biggest mistake is where we miss something that's coming along that's going to be huge. And for us, if we get in too early, like the idea of delivering TV over the internet, IPTV, we got in probably 5 years before we needed to. It's just now starting to happen. I don't feel bad about that at all. There's a few things like understanding direction, say the internet search would go, where we go, ooh, we're playing a tiny bit of catch up on that. Let's work some overtime on this little problem here. People are kind of underestimating our ability to move to the front of the pack there. And we've had that in many cases. We had that when the internet came along and became this big phenomena that we needed to really push the company into that. We had that when IBM broke off its relationship with us and went into competition with us. That was a very big challenge. But we don't want to have anything that comes along, some breakthrough in terms of how software is done, that we haven't gotten the best people in and are putting that together with the work we're doing. So it'd be missing something like that, that'd be our worst mistake.